But first, Sears, one of the legendary names of American retailing, filed for bankruptcy protection today. The company, which also owns Kmart, will continue to operate as executives try to reverse a downward spiral. John Yang has our story.
For generations, Sears lived up to its one-time advertising slogan.
Sears, where America shops.
It was a symbol of American culture and consumerism, home to some of the country's most iconic brand names. Craftsman meant tools.
Kenmore large capacity heavy duty washer.
Kenmore meant appliances.
At Sears, we install confidence.
And Die Hard meant car batteries. Once the nation's largest retailer, it was one-stop shopping for many households.
Why do I shop at Sears? It's easy for me. I can pick up tennis balls, children's clothing, torque wrenches, and a dish all in the same shop.
Until the 1940s, Sears even sold houses themselves, delivered in pieces. Hundreds still stand. Richard W. Sears and Alva C. Roebuck began it all as a mail-order business in the late 1800s to sell watches. The Sears catalog quickly expanded into other products, bringing to rural America items once only available in big cities. The Holiday Wish Book, hundreds of pages thick, fueled Christmas dreams for children and adults alike. The first store opened in 1925. As Americans moved to the suburbs after World War II, Sears moved with them, becoming a presence in shopping malls dotting the landscape. But as buying habits shifted to online shopping and e-commerce giants like Amazon, Sears began to slip. Under billionaire CEO Edward Lampert, it struggled through years of losses and the closure of hundreds of stores before today's bankruptcy filing with $5.6 billion of debt. We explore Sears' storied history and decline with Jerry Hancock, a historian and high school history teacher who's written extensively on Sears and its impact on American life. He joins us from Atlanta. Jerry Hancock, thanks so much for joining us. Given the changes in retail in America and the culture of America, was today's bankruptcy filing inevitable, or could they have made some other decisions and avoided this?
I think this late in the game, it was pretty expected. This has really been a downward spiral since about 1993, which is ironic. 1993 was the last year Sears did their catalog, and it was 1993 was where Walmart surpassed Sears in sales. The sad part about it is that on the corporate level, I've spoken with many retirees who said that many of the corporate leaders in Sears never really considered Walmart competition. They considered Walmart a discount store, and it was at a time where, you know, Sears was sort of king of the kingdom, and it's sort of sad to watch it all happen. I do feel like some of the recent decisions have been very detrimental, and I also don't think that that Mr. Lampert has quite the respect that he should for the history of such an incredible company.
Some of the decisions you say of recent decisions, some of them made by Mr. Lampert, who stepped down today as CEO, is remaining as chairman. What were some of the decisions you question or may have accelerated today's filing?
Well, I think Sears has been sort of selling off itself for some time now, selling off things like Craftsman tools. That was a big one. You know, I think it was one of the biggest draws for their retail stores and for their online orders as well. When you can just go up the street and buy it at the Ace Hardware. You know, I feel like they really shot themselves in the foot with that decision. Not to mention some of the real estate decisions that have been going on, selling off properties piecemeal. It's been a good time coming, I think, in some of the moves that they've made in recent years.
Is there some, I mean, you talk about the sort of the e-commerce and the online retailers, but at the beginning of the 20th century, wasn't Sears sort of taking advantage of changes in manufacturing, changes of distribution in the same way that Amazon and Walmart have been?
Absolutely. Sears started off obviously as a mail order catalog and gained a lot of momentum. In the mid-1920s, they hired a man by the name of Robert Wood, General Robert Wood, who was part of the Panama Canal Project. He was a procurement officer for the supplies needed for this massive construction project. He eventually ended up working for Montgomery Ward, and which was Sears' biggest competitor. And he really saw the future of the automobile and the shifts in the way people shop. And so he went to Ward and said, look, I think this retail thing is our next big move. And Ward would not jump on it. They said, we're a mail order company and we want to stick with what, has made us big. And finally, he pushed so hard, they fired him from Montgomery Ward. He went directly to Sears and was hired by their president, Julius Rosenwald. And Robert Wood went to Rosenwald with this idea about retail stores and sold it. And the year that they hired Robert Wood, 1924, they began making the move into retail, into radio, which was also a big part of it. They purchased a radio station in Chicago called WLS for World's Largest Store, was the call letters. And they started opening retail stores around the country. Here in Atlanta was one of those that opened in 1926.
This reorganization, bankruptcy filing for reorganization, they're going to try to turn things around. If they don't, what do you think Sears' legacy will be?
Well, at this point, obviously, the nostalgia for older generations, Sears is everything. I grew up in rural South Georgia, and those catalogs are everything to me. Even if you couldn't afford to buy some of the items in the catalog, it was still that sort of tangible thing that you could hold in your hand.
Sears expert and history teacher Jerry Hancock, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.